Hi, I wanted to talk about oralism. What is oralism? It's what happens when deaf people growing up usually. So you might hear this term usually when deaf people talk about their upbringing or their experiences with hearing devices and hearing culture. So what it is, it's a process where hearing society, hearing the immediate hearing family and peers and professionals condition the deaf person to perform as a hearing person. So the deaf person is forced to speak, to rely on lip reading, they go through speech and language therapy, and they are not taught to sign. They have they've restricted access to the deaf culture, deaf community, deaf information, and as a result, they typically don't have a deaf identity. Or if they do, it's a pretty negative one, rooted in ableism. This process does not try to condition the deaf person to fit in, but rather condition the deaf person to hide anything that is deaf about them and had them perform as a hearing person to fit in the hearing world. This means the deaf person doesn't have accessibility. They usually don't perform very well in education due to lack of accessibility, and they usually experience isolation, bullying, and all manner of things. It comes with also the use of forcing deaf people to use hearing devices. Please note that there is a difference between oralism and a deaf individual choosing to speak, choosing to use a hearing device. There is a huge difference. That is oralism. Yeah, that is oralism. It's a huge history. I'm not going to talk about the history about it simply because I don't have the facts in front of me. I only know the vague sense of it. I've researched it, I just don't have it here to tell you and to fact check with you. But yeah, it is rooted in ableism, and the cause of oralism, the results of oralism actually, it's closed down deaf schools, it's, separate. There's only 3 deaf schools left in the country, in the UK, I believe. But yeah, anyway, something like 97% of deaf children are born to hearing families, and oralism even comes to play in the medical field. Doctors advise their families, you should teach your child to speak because teaching them to sign will slow down their development or hinder their development, which is false. And it is language deprivation. Hearing devices do not cure your hearing. They aid your hearing, but they do not cure it. And how well they work varies from person to person and varies on the tools they have, just how lucky they get with the operation, if they had the cochlear implant, the compatibility with their specific hearing loss and the hearing aid. And science is still learning, so hearing devices are not to cure, it's far from it. So that's why oralism is quite detrimental and really frowned upon within the deaf community, because there are no benefits from oralism. It's rooted in ableism. I'm not saying that speech and language therapy is wrong. It's very supportive, very productive. I'm not saying that, teaching a deaf person to lip read and speak is wrong, or encouraging them to use a hearing device. I'm just saying that forcing them to do it and restricting their access to sign language, to deaf culture, to deaf community is wrong. And it is every deaf individual's decision on what works for them. So personally, I would sign more. But unfortunately, I started learning sign language as a 12-year-old, and I'm still getting to know the deaf community now, and I'm 22 years old. I grew up going to mainstream education, and I used my cochlear. I've been told off and screamed at for not wearing my cochlear implants before. I've been punished for it before growing up. And the persons that would punish me would never consider listening fatigue, burnout. I went through an intense amount of burnout as a kid. I think it has greatly affected my mental health and my education as a result, and my self-esteem massively. I have written a dissertation on effects of cochlear implants. Not that the dissertation was more about, can't even remember now what it was about specifically, but I know I've researched the effects of cochlear implants on self-esteem because of my dissertation. Yeah, so that's oralism. That is oralism. I choose to speak for this video simply because the vocabulary I have access to in spoken English. I don't quite have the complexities that I can access through in BSL because I'm still learning. And I just kept messing up the video when I tried to do BSL, and it just feels more comfortable speaking it with the knowledge that I have. But that is different to saying someone you're not allowed to sign. So yeah, that's oralism. So next time you see a deaf person talking about their experiences growing up and you hear the word oralism, now you know what it means. Maybe a little challenge for you, if you want one, is try and find as many deaf vloggers, YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagrammers, influencers, or whatever, and see how many times you can find the word oralism mentioned. Yeah, I'm not gonna edit this video so you get all the ums and buts, so have fun with that. I'm a burp. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a nice one.